The entire mountain shook as thousands of wolves dropped to their knees before a poor village healer in a torn dress. She had spent the night saving a dying black wolf and had no idea he was the most feared alpha king alive. Then the king looked into her eyes and whispered one impossible word. But before she could understand what was happening, an ancient prophecy was revealed. The woman standing before him would destroy his kingdom. And in front of his entire pack, the Alpha King did something no one expected. He rejected her. What he did not know was that she was already carrying his twins. 5 years later, the woman he abandoned would return as a powerful queen with 2 secret heirs and enough power to bring his entire kingdom to its knees. And by then it would be far too late for regret. The wolf was dying. Blood stained the snow like spilled wine. His huge black body lay beneath the pine trees while the storm swallowed the mountain in white darkness. One golden eye opened. Then another. He tried to stand and failed. Somewhere in the distance, hunters laughed. They thought they had killed him. They were wrong. A small lantern moved through the forest. A young woman appeared between the trees. Long silver blonde hair fell over her shoulders. Her cheeks were red from the cold. She wore an old blue dress and a faded cloak that had been patched many times. She stopped the moment she saw the wolf. For several heartbeats, neither of them moved. The beast was enormous. Bigger than any wolf she had ever seen. One bite from those jaws could tear her apart. The wind howled. The wolf lifted his head. Their eyes met. Something strange happened. She did not feel fear. She felt sadness. "Oh no," she whispered. She stepped closer. The wolf let out a low warning growl. "I know. You are scared." Another growl. "You do not have to be." The beast stared at her as if he could understand every word. Then she saw the arrow. It had sunk deep into his side. Blood covered his fur. Her heart twisted. Someone had done this on purpose. She slowly knelt beside him. "You poor thing." The wolf trembled. He had been fighting for hours, maybe days. He had crossed mountains while bleeding and somehow ended up outside her village. He should have been dead already. But he was still fighting. She admired that. She knew something about surviving. The people of Ashwood called her cursed. No one invited her to festivals. No one shared meals with her. Children crossed the road when they saw her. They said wolves never attacked her because darkness protected her. She had learned to live alone. And maybe that was why she could not leave another lonely creature to die. She touched his fur carefully. The wolf became still. "Can you stand?" He tried. His legs shook violently. Then he collapsed again. She sighed softly. "You are stubborn." Snow began falling harder. Soon the entire forest would disappear beneath the storm. "If I leave you here, you will die." The wolf closed his eyes. It looked almost like acceptance. He stood. "Fine." A small smile touched her lips. "You are coming home with me." Task was impossible. The wolf weighed more than she did. But she refused to give up. She found an old sled near the edge of the forest. She tied ropes around it and somehow managed to pull the beast onto it. The journey home felt endless. Her hands froze. Her legs ached. More than once she nearly collapsed. But every time she looked at the wolf, she kept going. At last the tiny cottage appeared through the snow. Warm light glowed from its windows. She laughed softly. "We made it." Inside the cottage the fire still burned. She placed blankets near the hearth and helped the wolf lie down. The room smelled of herbs and wood smoke. It was small. Only one bed. One table. Few shelves. Nothing more. Yet it was home. She heated water. Prepared bandages. Then she sat beside him. The arrow worried her. Removing it could kill him. Leaving it there would certainly kill him. She took a deep breath. "This will hurt." The wolf opened his eyes. She placed one hand on his head. The fur felt surprisingly soft. "Trust me." For a moment nothing happened. Then the beast slowly lowered his head. As if giving permission. She wrapped her fingers around the arrow. Pull. The wolf roared. The sound shook the entire cottage. Blood spilled onto the floor. She pressed cloth against the wound. "Stay with me." The wolf's breathing became heavy. She worked quickly, cleaned the wound, wrapped it with fresh bandages. Hours passed. Outside the storm grew worse. Inside only the fire crackled. Finally she sat back and wiped sweat from her forehead. "You survived." The wolf looked at her. Then something unexpected happened. He pushed his head gently against her hand. She blinked. "Are you thanking me?" His golden eyes never left hers. A smile appeared on her face. "I think that means yes." For the first time in many weeks she laughed. Real laugh. The kind she barely remembered. She fetched a bowl of water. The wolf drank slowly. Afterward he simply watched her move around the room. "You are very quiet." She sat beside him again. "I suppose I talk enough for both of us." Silence. The fire danced. Outside the snow covered the world. She touched the silver pendant around her neck. "My mother gave me this." The wolf looked at the pendant. "At least I think she did." Her smile faded. "I do not remember her face." The room became very quiet. "I do not remember my father either." She looked into the flames. "I have always wondered who they were." The wolf rested his head beside her knee. "I guess it does not matter anymore." A soft sound came from the beast, almost like disagreement. She looked down. "You think it matters?" Those golden eyes seemed strangely human. She laughed softly again. "Talking to a wolf. I really have become lonely." The wolf moved closer, then rested his head in her lap. She froze. Slowly she placed her hand on his fur. Warm. Alive. Her fingers moved gently through the black coat. "You are lonely too." The wolf closed his eyes. For a long time they stayed like that. A girl and a wounded beast beside the fire. Neither of them alone anymore. At some point she drifted to sleep. Then came the sound. Her eyes opened. The ground trembled. Horses. Many horses. She jumped to her feet. The wolf was awake. Alert. His ears stood straight. Another sound followed. The cries of men. She hurried to the door and opened it. Her breath stopped. The entire mountain had changed. Hundreds of soldiers covered the snow. Thousands. Black banners flew in the icy wind. Huge wolves stood beside armored warriors. Every road was blocked. Every tree hid another soldier. The village people stood in the distance staring in horror. An old warrior stepped forward. The moment he saw the black wolf inside the cottage, tears filled his eyes. Then he dropped to one knee. Every soldier did the same. Every wolf lowered its head. The entire mountain bowed. Silence filled the dawn. The old warrior spoke with a trembling voice. "Thank the moon goddess." He looked toward the cottage. "We have found our king." Behind her she heard movement. A strange warmth filled the room. She turned slowly. The black wolf stood. Golden light surrounded his body. The air itself seemed to shake. The beast looked directly into her eyes. Then the impossible happened. His body began to change. And Elara suddenly realized she had not saved a wounded wolf. She had saved something far more dangerous. King. Golden light filled the cottage. Elara stumbled backward until her shoulders touched the wall. The great black wolf stood in the center of the room. His body seemed to melt into the light. Fur disappeared. Bones shifted. The air itself trembled. Then the light faded. A man stood before her. Broad-shouldered. Dark hair touched his neck. A long scar crossed his chest. His golden eyes remained exactly the same. The same eyes that had watched her through the long winter night. The same eyes she had trusted. Elara could not breathe. The man looked at his hands as if he too had forgotten they existed. Then his gaze lifted to her. For one long heartbeat neither of them spoke. Outside thousands waited in complete silence. Finally he stepped toward her. His voice was deep and rough. "You saved me." Elara swallowed hard. "You were the wolf." He nodded. You are a man. A faint smile touched his lips. Most days. She stared at him in disbelief. The smile disappeared. Then something strange happened. The man froze. His eyes widened. He looked at her as if he had just seen a ghost. Slowly he took another step. The air became warmer. Her heart suddenly beat faster. A strange feeling spread through her chest. Something powerful. Something she could not explain. The man whispered one word. Mate. The word seemed to echo inside the room. Elara frowned. What does that mean? Before he could answer, the old warrior burst into the cottage. He stopped the moment he saw her. Then his eyes became huge. Moon above. He looked at the king. You found her. The king did not move. He kept staring at Elara. The old warrior suddenly smiled. The smile was full of joy. The kingdom will celebrate for 100 years. Elara looked from one man to the other. I think I am missing something. The old warrior bowed. My lady, I am General Darius. She blinked. My lady. You are the Alpha King's fated mate. Silence. The words meant nothing to her. Then she remembered stories told by old women in the village. Stories of wolves. Stories of mates chosen by destiny. Her face slowly turned pale. No. The king stepped closer. It is true. She looked into his eyes. The strange warmth inside her chest grew stronger. She could feel him. His emotions. His relief. His wonder. It was impossible. Yet it felt real. You are saying destiny brought a king to my doorstep. A small smile appeared on his face. It seems destiny has strange habits. For some reason she laughed. A nervous laugh. Everything felt unreal. Then a loud voice shattered the moment. Stop! A woman entered the cottage. She wore dark robes and silver jewelry. Her beauty was sharp and cold. Her eyes landed on Elara. Hatred flashed inside them. The room suddenly became tense. The king frowned. Lyra. The woman ignored him. She stared only at Elara. So it is you. Elara felt a chill. Do we know each other? No. Then why are you looking at me like that? The woman did not answer. Instead she reached into her robes and pulled out an ancient scroll. General Darius suddenly looked worried. The king's expression hardened. What are you doing? Lyra slowly opened the scroll. Her voice became cold. There is an old prophecy. Silence. If the Alpha King takes a silver-haired woman as his mate, then fire and blood will consume the kingdom. Elara blinked. The king's face turned white. Lyra continued. She will destroy the Royal Bloodline and end the reign of the Alpha Kings. The room fell silent. Even the fire seemed to stop crackling. Elara looked at the king. What is she talking about? He said nothing. Outside the soldiers had heard every word. Whispers spread through the crowd. Fear moved like a shadow. Lyra took another step. Your Majesty, you know the law. The king remained still. If the prophecy is true, then this woman is a danger to every person in the kingdom. The warmth inside Elara's chest suddenly became cold. She looked at him again. You cannot possibly believe this. Still he said nothing. Her voice became smaller. Can you? The king closed his eyes. For the first time she saw pain on his face. Pain. The kind that comes from impossible choices. When he opened his eyes again, they looked different. Harder. Colder. He stepped away from her. One step. Then another. Her heart sank. No. He looked at the floor. I have a duty to my people. Tears filled her eyes. You said I saved you. You did. You called me your mate. I did. Then why are you walking away? Silence. The answer came like a blade. Because I am king before I am a man. The words struck her harder than any weapon. Outside, every soldier remained on their knees. The entire mountain waited. The king slowly lifted his head. His golden eyes met hers. Pain burned inside them. But his voice remained steady. I reject you. Everything inside Elara shattered. The warmth in her chest vanished. A sharp pain spread through her body. She gasped. It felt as though something had been torn from her soul. The king flinched as if he felt the same pain. But he did not take the words back. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She looked at the man she had saved. The man who had looked at her like she mattered. Now he looked like a stranger. I understand. Her voice barely existed. She wiped her tears. Then she smiled. Broken smile. You should leave. The king stared at her. Elara. You should leave now. Silence. General Darius looked heartbroken. Even he could not speak. Lyra, however, looked satisfied. The king took one step toward her. She stepped back. That hurt him. She could see it. But she no longer cared. He had made his choice. Finally he turned and walked out of the cottage. The soldiers lowered their heads even more. No one dared speak. A few moments later horses began moving. The army slowly disappeared into the snowy dawn. Elara remained standing in the middle of her little home. The fire burned quietly. The silence felt enormous. Then suddenly her hand moved to her stomach. She frowned. A strange warmth spread beneath her palm. Gentle. Alive. Her breathing stopped. Could not be. She sat down slowly. The warmth came again. Then another feeling. Tiny heartbeat. Then a second. Tears filled her eyes once more. The king had rejected her. He had walked away. But he had already left something behind. She was not alone anymore. Very softly she whispered into the empty cottage. I think I have your children. The cottage felt colder than the winter outside. Elara sat beside the dying fire with both hands resting on her stomach. She could still feel it. 2 tiny heartbeats. Fragile. Impossible. Tears slipped down her cheeks. The Alpha King had rejected her only hours ago. Yet somehow she carried his children. A laugh almost escaped her. Life had become stranger than any story. Then came a knock at the door. She quickly wiped her face. Another knock. Slow and heavy. She opened the door. 3 village women stood outside. Their faces looked pale. None of them had ever visited her home before. The oldest woman stared at her. You should leave. Elara frowned. What happened? The woman looked over her shoulder as if afraid someone might hear. The soldiers told everyone about the prophecy. A cold feeling spread through Elara. Another woman spoke. They say you will destroy the kingdom. Elara looked at them in disbelief. You cannot believe that. No one answered. That silence hurt more than words. The oldest woman took a small bag from her coat. There is bread inside. Elara looked at it. Why are you helping me? The old woman sighed. Because your mother once saved my son. Elara's eyes widened. You knew my mother. The woman nodded slowly. She was kind. Tell me about her. The old woman opened her mouth. Then suddenly screams came from the center of the village. Everyone turned. Men were running through the snow. More people shouted. Fear spread like fire. The old woman grabbed Elara's arm. You need to go now. What is happening? They are coming. Who? But the woman was already backing away. Within moments all 3 disappeared into the storm. Elara stood frozen. Then another scream echoed through the village. A rock struck her window. Glass shattered. She jumped. A man's angry voice rose outside. Curse bringer. Another voice joined. She will destroy us. Then another. Drive her away. The words came from every direction. Elara's heart sank. The villagers. The same people she had healed for years. The same people whose children she had treated. They were afraid. And fear was turning into hatred. More stones hit the cottage. Glass broke. Someone kicked the door. The old wooden frame shook. Elara stepped backward. Another kick. Then another. The door burst open. Several men entered. Their faces were filled with anger. One of them pointed at her. Leave this village. Another spat onto the floor. You brought evil here. Elara could hardly recognize them. Please listen to me. No. You know me. We know what you are. She looked around desperately. No one defended her. No one met her eyes. A young woman stepped forward. Elara knew her. She had delivered this woman's baby 2 years ago. The woman looked at her with fear. You should never have come here. The words felt like knives. This had always been her home. Now she was a stranger. Very slowly she picked up her cloak. Then she looked at the people around her. I never wanted to hurt anyone. No one answered. She nodded once, then walked out into the snow. No one stopped her. No one said goodbye. She left the village carrying nothing except a small bag and the children growing inside her. The storm swallowed her footprints. Night came quickly. The forest grew dark. Snow covered the trees. She wrapped her cloak tighter around herself. You are all I have now. Her hand rested on her stomach. I will protect you. A sound came from somewhere behind her. A branch snapped. She stopped. Silence. Then another sound. A step. Someone was following her. Her heartbeat quickened. She turned. Nothing. Only darkness and falling snow. She began walking faster. The footsteps returned. Closer. A cold fear settled inside her. Suddenly 3 men stepped from behind the trees. All wore black cloaks. Each carried a sword. Elara stopped. One of the men smiled. It was not a kind smile. You are far from home. Who are you? No answer. Another man looked at her stomach. Such a shame. Ice spread through her veins. She stepped backward. What do you want? The first man pulled out a knife. Our orders are simple. The world became very quiet. Orders. Someone had sent them. Someone wanted her dead. She turned and ran. The men chased her immediately. Branches whipped against her face. Snow slowed her steps. The forest seemed endless. Behind her came the sound of boots. Closer. Closer. A knife struck a tree beside her. She screamed. The men laughed. Run faster. Tears blurred her vision. She could not die. Not now. Not with her children. She pushed herself harder. Suddenly the ground disappeared beneath her feet. She stopped just in time. Cliff. The storm had hidden it. She stood at the edge breathing hard. The assassins emerged from the darkness. They looked almost disappointed. No escape now. Elara stared at them. Her hand covered her stomach. Please. The men did not move. I have done nothing. The leader shrugged. It is not personal. Who sent you? Silence. Then he smiled. You should ask your king. Her heart stopped. Well, Kel would never do this. Would he? The man raised his sword. Fear and doubt exploded inside her. At that exact moment the ground beneath her cracked. A loud sound echoed through the night. The edge of the cliff broke apart. Snow and stone fell away. Elara screamed. Then she was falling. The assassins rushed forward. Too late. She disappeared into darkness. The icy wind tore at her clothes. Then everything became strangely quiet. She crashed into water. Cold surrounded her. The river dragged her deeper. She fought to reach the surface. Finally her head broke through. She gasped. The current carried her forward. Then suddenly the river slowed. A strange blue light appeared ahead. She blinked. There should have been nothing here. But there was. Valley. Hidden beneath the mountain. Ancient towers glowed softly in the darkness. Silver bridges crossed shining streams. Thousands of lights burned like stars. It was a city. Secret city. The last thing Elara saw before losing consciousness was a group of people running toward the river. And every one of them had silver eyes. Warmth touched her face. Felt strange after so much cold. Elara tried to open her eyes. At first she saw only light. Then shadows. Then a ceiling made of white stone covered in glowing symbols. She blinked. This was not her cottage. This was not the forest. For one terrible moment she thought she had died. Then she heard voices. Soft voices. Concerned voices. A woman leaned over her. She looked to be in her 60s. Her silver hair was braided down her back and her eyes glowed like moonlight. You are awake. Elara tried to sit up. Pain shot through her body. The woman gently pushed her back. Slowly, child. Where am I? The woman smiled. Somewhere you were never meant to find. Elara looked around. The room was beautiful. White curtains hung beside tall windows. Moon-shaped lanterns glowed softly. The air smelled of flowers and herbs. Then she remembered. The cliff. The assassins. Her hand flew to her stomach. The old woman immediately understood. They are safe. Tears filled Elara's eyes. She let out a shaky breath. Thank you. The woman placed a warm hand over hers. No. We should thank you. Elara frowned. I do not understand. The woman looked at her carefully. Then her eyes dropped to the silver pendant around Elara's neck. The old woman suddenly froze. Her breathing changed. Very slowly she reached toward the pendant. Where did you get this? My mother left it for me. The woman looked as though she had seen a ghost. Your mother? Yes. The old woman's hands trembled. What was her name? I do not know. Silence filled the room. Then tears appeared in the woman's eyes. Before Elara could ask another question, the door opened. 3 men entered. All wore white robes. All had silver eyes. The oldest among them carried a staff made of crystal. The moment he saw Elara, he stopped walking. His face turned pale. Then he slowly lowered himself to one knee. The other men did the same. Elara stared at them. What are you doing? No one answered. The old woman whispered. It cannot be. The man with the staff looked up. It is her. Who? He did not answer her question. Instead he looked at the pendant. Then at her face. Then at her silver blonde hair. Tears filled his eyes. For a moment he looked like a man who had waited a lifetime for something impossible. Finally he spoke. The Moon Princess has returned. The room became silent. Elara blinked. I think you have mistaken me for someone else. No. I am a healer from Ashwood. The man shook his head. You are much more than that. I do not even know who my parents were. The old man's voice became soft. We knew them. Everything inside her stopped. What? We knew your mother. The room suddenly seemed smaller. You knew her. He nodded. And your father. Her heart pounded. After 24 years. After an entire life of questions. Someone finally knew. Tears filled her eyes. Please. Her voice shook. Tell me. The old man sat beside her bed. Your mother was Queen Selene. The name meant nothing to her. But the way he said it made her chest tighten. Your father was King Orion. Again silence. Then the old man whispered words that changed everything. You were born a princess. The world tilted. No. You are the last daughter of the moon-born kingdom. She stared at him. Princess. Kingdom. None of it felt real. I think you are confused. The old woman smiled sadly. We prayed every year that you were alive. But I was abandoned. No child. You were hidden. Elara frowned. The old man closed his eyes. 24 years ago your parents were betrayed. The room grew colder. They feared someone wanted to kill you. So they sent you away. Tears rolled down his face. They gave you to a trusted servant and prayed you would survive. Elara could barely breathe. All her life she had believed no one wanted her. Now she was learning that her parents had given everything to save her. Where are they now? No one answered. She already knew. The old woman took her hand. They are gone. A deep pain spread through her chest. She had found her parents only to lose them again. A tear slid down her cheek. I never even knew their faces. The old woman embraced her. You have your mother's eyes. For a long time no one spoke. Outside the windows she could hear water flowing and birds singing. A hidden world existed beneath the mountain. A world that knew her name. The old man finally stood. There is more. She looked at him. The children you carry. Her hand moved to her stomach again. Yes. They are special. They are only babies. He smiled gently. They are heirs of 2 ancient bloodlines. A strange feeling passed through the room. One day they may change the world. Fear suddenly touched her heart. The children were innocent. Yet already destiny surrounded them. The old man walked toward the window. The kingdom above believes the moon-born people disappeared 300 years ago. He turned back to her. We did not disappear. We hid. From what? A shadow crossed his face. From the people who murdered your parents. Silence. Elara slowly sat up. You know who killed them. We know enough to fear them still. The room grew heavy. The old man looked at her carefully. You have enemies, child. Then I will face them. The old woman smiled. You sound exactly like your mother. Suddenly pain crossed Elara's face. Sharp pain. Then another. The old woman immediately became serious. When did this begin? Elara looked confused. Another pain came. She gasped. The old woman smiled softly. It seems your children have decided not to wait. The room exploded into movement. Servants hurried inside. Water was brought. Fresh cloth appeared. The old man laughed through his tears. The kingdom has waited 24 years for its princess. He looked toward her. And now we will welcome the next generation as well. Hours passed. Pain came like waves. The moon climbed high above the hidden valley. Then at last a tiny cry filled the room. Another followed only moments later. Tears poured down Elara's face. 2 babies, boy and a girl. The old woman placed them in her arms. They were so small, so perfect. The boy opened his eyes. Golden. The girl opened hers. Silver. A strange warmth filled the room. Everyone stared. The old man slowly dropped to one knee again. Then every servant followed. Every person in the chamber bowed. Elara looked at them in confusion. The old man smiled through his tears. Then he spoke the words that changed her life forever. Welcome home. He lowered his head. Your Highness. 5 years passed like falling snow. The hidden valley no longer felt strange to Elara. Felt like home. Every morning the silver towers glowed beneath the rising sun. Rivers of clear water crossed the valley like ribbons of glass. Flowers bloomed even in winter and moon birds sang from the trees. And every morning 2 small children ran through the palace halls. Mother, look at me. Rowan raced across the garden with a wooden sword in his hand. Behind him came Mira carrying an armful of flowers. The boy had his father's golden eyes and fearless smile. The girl had Elara's silver eyes and calm heart. They were twins, yet they could not have been more different. Elara watched them from the palace steps and smiled. For 5 years these children had filled every empty place inside her heart. She no longer cried at night. She no longer dreamed of snow and rejection. She had become someone new. The old woman who had rescued her now stood beside her. Her name was Lady Seraphine. You are smiling again. Elara nodded. They grow too quickly. Seraphine laughed softly. Every mother says the same thing. The sound of swords clashing came from the training yard. Elara turned. Dozens of moon-born warriors practiced under the morning light. She was no longer just a healer. For 5 years she had trained beside them. She had learned to ride, fight, to command, and something even stranger, to use the ancient magic sleeping in her blood. Your lesson begins soon. Elara sighed. I was hoping for one quiet morning. You are a queen in everything except name. Quiet mornings are over. They walked toward the training grounds. The old master was already waiting. Master Orion looked nearly 70 and still moved like a young warrior. He handed her a silver staff. Again. Elara lifted the staff, closed her eyes, took a deep breath. The world became silent. She felt the wind, the water, the beating of her own heart. Then she raised her hand. Silver light appeared. First it was only a spark. Then it grew. A circle of glowing energy surrounded her. The warriors watched in silence. Master Orion smiled. Better. The light expanded. Flowers near her feet suddenly bloomed. The dry branches of a tree turned green. Birds gathered nearby. Elara opened her eyes. Silver light reflected inside them. She looked almost like a goddess. Then the light vanished. Master Orion nodded proudly. The blood of the moon-born queens has awakened. She lowered the staff. I still do not understand why I can do these things. You heal life itself. Is that enough to save a kingdom? The old man became quiet. Perhaps. His answer troubled her. Everything in this valley seemed wrapped in secrets. Everyone knew more than they said. A loud howl suddenly echoed through the garden. Then another. The children came running. Mother! Rowan looked excited. You need to see this. Before she could ask another question, he grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the eastern field. Mira followed behind with a mysterious smile. When they reached the field, Elara stopped. 6 wolves sat in a perfect circle around her son. Massive wolves. Wild wolves. None of them moved. All stared at Rowan. The little boy crossed his arms. I told them to sit. Silence. Master Orion nearly dropped his staff. Elara looked at the wolves. Then at her son. You what? Rowan grinned. They listened to me. As if proving his words, one wolf lowered its head. Then another. Elara felt a chill. This was impossible. No child should command wolves. The old master slowly stepped forward. Say another command. Rowan looked confused. Like what? Tell them to leave. The boy turned toward the animals. You can go now. Immediately all 6 wolves stood and disappeared into the forest. Silence covered the field. The old man looked pale. Mira suddenly tugged on Elara's sleeve. Mother! She pointed toward a wounded bird lying in the grass. Its wing was broken. The little girl knelt beside it. Then something incredible happened. A soft silver light flowed from her hands. The bird's wings slowly healed. A moment later it flew into the sky. Elara could not speak. Neither child seemed surprised. To them it was normal. Master Orion looked as though he had seen a miracle. The old stories were true. What stories? He looked at the twins. The prince who commands beasts. Then at Mira. And the princess who carries healing light. Elara's heart beat faster. What does this mean? The old man's answer came slowly. It means your children are stronger than anyone imagined. That evening the palace held a feast. Music filled the halls. Servants laughed. The children played with the palace dogs. Yet Elara could not relax. She kept thinking about their powers. She kept thinking about destiny. When the feast ended, Master Orion asked her to follow him. He led her deep into the palace. Down ancient stairs. Through a hidden door. At the end of the corridor stood a library. Thousands of old books covered the walls. The old man lit several candles. Then he pulled out a wooden chest. Dust covered its surface. He opened it carefully. Inside lay old letters. A silver crown. And a portrait. Elara froze. The woman in the painting looked exactly like her. The same eyes. The same hair. The same smile. Your mother. A tear slipped down her cheek. Beside the woman stood a tall man with dark hair. Her father. For the first time in her life she saw their faces. She reached out and touched the painting. They look happy. They were. The old man handed her a letter. It belonged to your father. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The writing was faded. But one sentence stood out. If anything happens to us, then never trust the royal court of the Alpha Kingdom. Her breathing stopped. She looked up. What does this mean? Master Orion remained silent. She unfolded another letter. This one contained names. Royal advisors. Generals. Nobles. At the bottom was one name circled in red. Lord Cedric Thorne. The old man's face darkened. He was once an advisor to your parents. Elara's chest tightened. What happened? He betrayed them. The room seemed colder. He helped the people who hunted your family. Her hands shook. No. There is more. He placed another document in front of her. An official seal marked the paper. The seal belonged to the Alpha King's court. Elara stared at it. Her blood turned to ice. Master Orion's voice became heavy. The men who murdered your parents were protected by the royal court. Silence. The candle flames trembled. Far away thunder rolled across the valley. Elara slowly lifted her eyes. The past she had finally found was darker than she imagined. And for the first time in 5 years she thought of the man who had broken her heart. King Cale Draven. Then she whispered the question that terrified her. Did he know? Rain fell over the royal capital. The once proud city looked tired. Market stalls stood empty. Soldiers marched with wounded faces. Even the great black banners of the Alpha Kingdom hung without life. 5 years had changed everything. And no one had changed more than King Cale Draven. He stood alone on the palace balcony and watched the storm. His black hair moved in the cold wind. His golden eyes looked older now. King still. But a weary one. He had won wars. He had defeated enemies. Yet every night he dreamed of one small cottage and one silver-haired woman. Elara. Her name still lived inside him. Like a wound that never healed. A knock came at the door. General Darius entered. The old warrior had more gray in his beard now. You have not slept again. Cale did not turn around. I sleep. No. Silence. Rain struck the stone floor. Darius sighed. It has been 5 years. Cale finally looked at him. I know exactly how long it has been. The old warrior walked closer. You still search for her. Every month. Every season. Every year. His voice became quiet. And I will continue. Darius looked at him with sadness. We never found a body. Cale closed his eyes. That was the curse. There had never been a body. Only blood near the cliff. Broken branches. Footprints that vanished into the snow. She had disappeared as if the mountain itself had swallowed her. Sometimes he prayed she had survived. Sometimes he feared she had. Because if she still lived then she hated him. And she had every right. A servant suddenly rushed into the room. Your Majesty. Cale turned. What is it? The western villages are refusing to pay taxes. Another problem. Another fire. Another wound in a kingdom that seemed to be breaking apart. Darius cursed under his breath. 3 more villages joined the rebellion yesterday. Cale's jaw tightened. Who leads them? The servant swallowed. Lord Cedric Thorne. Silence. That name had become poison. 5 years ago Cedric had been a loyal advisor. Now he controlled nearly half the western lands. Every month he gained more soldiers. Every month he became bolder. He asks for another meeting. Cale laughed bitterly. He asks for my throne. The servant lowered his head. Cale waved him away. When they were alone again Darius spoke carefully. You trusted Cedric once. I trusted many people once. His eyes darkened. I was wrong. The old warrior hesitated. Then he finally said the words he had carried for years. You were also wrong about her. Silence. Cale looked away. Rain fell harder. I know. The words were almost a whisper. For 5 years he had lived with that truth. Every victory tasted empty. Every celebration felt cold. He had rejected the only woman his wolf had ever chosen. Not because she had betrayed him. Not because she had lied. But because he had been afraid. Afraid of a prophecy. Afraid of losing his kingdom. And in trying to protect everything he had lost the one thing that mattered. Darius stepped closer. You loved her. Cale's face hardened. I had no right to love her. But you did. The king remained silent. The old warrior looked toward the rain. I still remember the way you looked at her. Cale's hands tightened. I remember every moment. The cottage. The fire. Her smile. The way she touched his fur without fear. The way she laughed. Those memories never left him. He had tried. Moon above he had tried. Nothing worked. A knock interrupted the silence. The palace doors opened. Lyra entered. She still wore silver robes. She still looked beautiful. But her eyes had changed. There was hunger inside them now. Ambition. Possession. You sent for me. Cale's face became cold. No. She frowned. The servant said you wished to speak. I did not. A brief shadow crossed her expression. Then she smiled. The council meeting begins soon. I remember. She stepped closer. You should not stand in the rain. I prefer it. Her smile faded. For 5 years she had remained at his side. For 5 years she had waited for him to notice her. He never had. Everyone in the kingdom knew she wanted to be queen. Everyone except Cale cared. She looked at him carefully. You are thinking about her again. Silence. I can see it on your face. Cale slowly turned. Golden eyes met silver ones. I suggest you stop speaking. Lyra lifted her chin. She is gone. No answer. Dead perhaps. Still no answer. Her voice became sharper. You destroyed yourself for a village girl. That did it. The air inside the room suddenly became heavy. The wolf inside Cale stirred. Danger filled his eyes. Do not call her that. Lyra stepped back. For a moment fear crossed her face. Then it vanished. I only wish to help you. You have done enough. Silence. She looked wounded. But behind the pain something darker flickered. Then she smiled again. As you wish. She turned and left. The moment the doors closed, Darius sighed. She grows more dangerous. Cale nodded. He had begun to notice strange things. Missing documents. Unexpected alliances. Whispers in court. And somehow Lyra's name appeared near every problem. Yet he had no proof. The kingdom felt like dry wood waiting for a spark. A horn suddenly echoed through the palace. Then another. The sound of alarm. Both men turned. A guard rushed inside. His face looked pale. Your Majesty. What happened? Scouts have returned. Cale frowned. They bring news from the eastern mountains. Darius stepped forward. Speak. The guard swallowed. Our men discovered an army. Silence. What army? No banners we recognize. Cale's eyes narrowed. How large? Thousands. The room became still. No kingdom near their borders possessed such numbers. Then the guard added one final sentence. The sentence that made Cale's heart stop. The soldiers say they were led by a woman. Darius frowned. A queen. The guard nodded. They say she rode a white horse. Cale felt something strange inside his chest. The guard continued. She had silver hair. Silence. Complete silence. Then very softly he spoke. What else? The guard looked almost afraid. They say every warrior around her called her Your Majesty. Rain crashed against the windows. Far away thunder shook the sky. And for the first time in 5 long years the dead hope inside King Cale's heart opened its eyes. Because somewhere beyond the mountains a silver-haired queen was coming. And he suddenly could not breathe. The gates of the royal capital had never seen an army like this. Thousands of soldiers stood in shining silver armor. Their banners carried a crescent moon instead of a wolf. White horses filled the road. The people gathered on rooftops and market stalls. Whispers spread through the city. No one knew who these warriors were. No one knew where they had come from. But everyone could feel their power. At the front of the army rode a woman. She wore silver armor that seemed to glow beneath the morning sun. A white cloak flowed behind her. Long silver blonde hair rested over her shoulders. Her face was calm. Her eyes were steady, beautiful, unreachable, queenly. King Cale stood on the palace steps and forgot how to breathe. Elara. She was alive. For 5 years he had dreamed of this moment. He had imagined running to her, speaking her name, asking forgiveness. But now that she was here he could not move. Because she looked nothing like the girl he had left behind. The shy healer was gone. This woman carried a kingdom in her eyes. She stopped her horse a few steps away. For a long moment neither of them spoke. The entire city watched. The wind moved through the banners. Then Elara slowly stepped down from her horse. Kale's heart pounded. She looked at him. Not with love. Not with anger. Not even with sadness. She looked at him like a king looks at another ruler. As if they were strangers. That hurt more than anything. He swallowed. Elara. Her face did not change. Your Majesty. The formal words struck him like a blade. You are alive. Clearly. Silence. Thousands of eyes watched them. Kale took one step forward. I searched for you. She said nothing. For 5 years. Still nothing. The old ache returned to his chest. You disappeared. A small shadow crossed her eyes. No. Her voice remained calm. I was abandoned. The words hit him harder than a punch. No answer came. 'Cause she was right. General Darius slowly approached. The old warrior looked at Elara with tears in his eyes. My lady. A soft smile finally touched her face. It is good to see you again, General. The old man looked relieved. You survived. I did. Thank the moon goddess. Kale watched them and felt strangely jealous. Even now she smiled more warmly at Darius than at him. Then a small voice interrupted the moment. Mother. Everyone turned. 2 children stepped from behind the silver soldiers. Little boy. Little girl. Both around 5 years old. The girl's silver eyes looked exactly like Elara's. The boy's golden eyes looked painfully familiar. Kale's heart stopped. The world seemed to tilt. The little boy walked to Elara and took her hand. Are these the wolf people you told us about? Several soldiers coughed to hide their laughter. Elara looked down. Yes. The little girl stared at Kale with curiosity. He looks sad. Silence spread across the courtyard. Kale could not take his eyes off the children. Golden eyes. Silver hair. Something inside him already knew. Whoa. It had known from the first moment. The little boy suddenly looked up at him. Then he smiled. The same smile Kale saw every morning in his mirror. The king's breathing became uneven. Elara noticed. She slowly placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. Rowan. Then she touched the little girl's hair. Mira. The names felt important. Dangerously important. Kale's voice became quiet. Your children. Yes. Silence. No one moved. No one breathed. Then the truth struck him like lightning. 5 years. The children were 5 years old. 5 years. Exactly 5 years. His face turned pale. He looked at Elara. Then at the twins. Then back at her. She did not deny it. She did not need to. His knees suddenly felt weak. They are mine. The words escaped him like a prayer. The entire courtyard became silent. General Darius looked as shocked as everyone else. Elara's face remained calm. Yes. One word. One simple word. Yet it changed everything. Kale stared at his children. His children. Son. Daughter. Children he had never held. Never protected. Never watched grow. 5 years had been stolen from him. Whoa. He had thrown them away himself. Pain filled his eyes. He looked at Rowan. The boy looked back curiously. Then Mira hid behind her mother. The king took a step toward them. Elara immediately moved. She placed herself between him and the children. The motion was small, but it carried a message. You cannot have them. The king stopped. The rejection in that single movement hurt more than any wound. I did not know. Her eyes became cold. That changes nothing. He had no answer. 'Cause she was right again. The children looked confused. Rowan tugged on Elara's sleeve. Mother. Yes. Who is he? Silence. Every person in the courtyard waited. Elara looked at Kale, then at her son. Finally she answered. He is the Alpha King. The boy nodded, as if that explained everything. Then he looked up at Kale again. Why are you looking at us like that? Kale could barely speak. 'Cause I am your father. 'Cause I missed every birthday. Because I failed you before I even knew you existed. But the words stayed trapped inside him. Before he could answer, another voice echoed from behind the Silver Army. Children! An elderly man approached. His robes were white and silver. His hair shone like snow. The twins immediately smiled. Grandfather! They ran to him. The old man embraced them warmly. Then Rowan looked at Kale and spoke words that shocked the entire kingdom. This is our grandfather king. Silence. Every noble stared. Every soldier looked confused. Kale slowly raised his eyes. Grandfather king. The old man met his gaze. There was wisdom in those silver eyes. And power. Ancient power. Then he spoke calmly. It seems we finally meet Alpha King. Kale frowned. Who are you? The old man gently placed his hands on the twins' shoulders. Then he smiled. I am the keeper of the Moonborn Kingdom. The name alone caused whispers to explode through the crowd. Because according to every history book, the Moonborn Kingdom had vanished 300 years ago. Yet here it stood. Alive. Powerful. And beside its king stood Elara. His rejected mate. The mother of his children. Queen. And suddenly Kale realized something terrifying. He did not know this woman anymore. Not at all. The city had not slept. By sunset every street carried the same story. The silver-haired queen had returned. The Alpha King had children. And the lost Moonborn Kingdom was real. Torches burned along the palace walls as nobles gathered in the great hall. No music played. No servants spoke. The air felt heavy. Like a storm waiting to break. Elara stood near the tall windows with Rowan and Mira beside her. The twins looked around with wide eyes. Everything was new to them. The giant pillars. The painted ceilings. The banners of black wolves. Mira held her mother's hand. Will we stay here long? Elara brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's face. I do not know. The little girl nodded. Then she whispered something that made Elara's heart ache. I like our home better. So do I. Across the hall Kale watched them. He could not look away. Every movement of the children felt precious. Every smile felt like a gift he did not deserve. He had spent 5 years mourning a woman. Now he had found an entire family. And none of them belonged to him. General Darius stepped beside him. You should speak to them. Kale gave a bitter smile. I do not think they wish to speak to me. Children have generous hearts. Kale's eyes remained on Rowan. The boy was laughing about something. The sound filled the hall. I do not deserve their generosity. Before Darius could answer, the great doors opened. Lord Cedric Thorne entered. He wore dark red robes and a smile that never reached his eyes. Several nobles followed him. The moment he saw Elara he froze. Only for a second. But Elara noticed. So did the old Moonborn King. Cedric recovered quickly and bowed. Your Majesty. No one could tell which ruler he meant. Elara looked at him calmly. I know your face. A shadow crossed his eyes. We have never met. You knew my parents. The hall became silent. Cedric smiled again. I knew many people. The answer sounded smooth. Too smooth. The old Moonborn King stepped forward. And some of them died. Silence. Cedric's smile weakened. Kale frowned. What is happening? Elara slowly turned toward him. You never investigated their deaths. Kale looked confused. What deaths? The hall grew colder. The old king's voice echoed like distant thunder. The murders of King Orion and Queen Selene. Whispers spread among the nobles. Kale looked from one face to another. I know nothing about this. Elara believed him. She could see the shock in his eyes. For the first time she wondered if he had truly been innocent. Then the doors opened again. A guard rushed inside. His face looked terrified. Your Majesty. What is it? The man swallowed hard. The Western army has entered the capital. Cedric smiled. Very slowly. The smile of a man who no longer needed masks. Cale's hand moved toward his sword. You! Cedric laughed. The sound filled the hall. At last! Several nobles suddenly stepped away from the king and stood beside Cedric. Betrayal. Right in the middle of the palace. Darius cursed. You traitors! Cedric looked almost amused. I prefer survivors. The great doors burst open. Dozens of armed soldiers marched inside. Their armor carried the mark of the Western lands. The hall erupted into chaos. Nobles screamed. Servants ran. Children cried. Cale stepped in front of Elara and the twins without thinking. For one brief moment she looked surprised. Then his sword left its sheath. You chose rebellion. Cedric spread his arms. I chose a future. You chose greed. The man's smile disappeared. No. His eyes burned. I chose what should have been mine. Silence. I served this kingdom for 20 years. His voice grew louder. I watched kings wear crowns while I bowed. His face twisted. I am tired of bowing. Cale raised his sword. You will never sit on my throne. Cedric laughed again. You still do not understand. He turned toward Elara. Tell him. She stared at him. Tell him who really killed your parents. The hall became silent. Cedric's smile slowly returned. I did. A gasp spread through the room. The twins looked confused. The old moonborn king closed his eyes. As if he had expected this moment for years. Cedric looked almost proud. Your parents trusted me. He looked at Elara. They even made me your godfather. Pain flashed across her face. But trust is a wonderful weapon. His voice became soft. I opened the palace gates. The room seemed to grow colder. I told their enemies where to find them. Elara's hands trembled. You murdered them. No. He smiled. I arranged their deaths. The difference meant nothing. Tears filled her eyes. For 24 years she had imagined her parents. Now she learned they had died because of betrayal. Cedric looked at Cale. And your royal court protected me. Cale frowned. I never knew. Of course not. The man laughed. You were still a prince. Silence. The old king knew. The words struck Cale like lightning. My father. Cedric nodded. He accepted my loyalty in exchange for my silence. The room exploded with whispers. Everything changed in an instant. The sins of the old king had poisoned the present. Cale looked sick. Then another voice spoke. Calm voice. Female voice. Enough. Everyone turned. Lyra stepped from the shadows. She looked strangely peaceful. Cedric smiled at her. The smile of an ally. Cale's face darkened. You! Lyra walked slowly toward the center of the hall. Then she looked directly at Elara. You should have stayed dead. Silence. Darius stepped forward. What are you saying? Lyra smiled. The prophecy was never complete. The room froze. Cale stared at her. What did you do? She lifted her chin. I changed it. No one moved. No one breathed. I removed the final lines. Her eyes shone with madness. The true prophecy said that the Alpha King's mate would not destroy the kingdom. A long pause followed. She would save it. Silence exploded. Cale looked as if the world had shattered beneath him. Elara could not move. Lyra laughed softly. I could not allow that. Her eyes filled with bitterness. I loved you. She looked at Cale. I waited for years. Her smile trembled. And then you found her. The hall felt suffocating. So I changed fate. Tears stood in her eyes. I made you reject her. The king's sword slipped from his hand. The sound echoed like thunder. 5 years. 5 years of pain. 5 years of loss. Because of a lie. Cale slowly looked at Elara. She looked back at him. Neither spoke. There were no words large enough. Suddenly a strange glow filled the hall. Everyone turned. At the far end of the chamber stood an ancient stone pedestal. Upon it rested a silver crown that had not moved for centuries. Now it was glowing. Brighter, brighter. Then it rose into the air. The entire hall gasped. The crown floated across the room, straight toward Elara, and stopped above her head. The silver crown floated above Elara's head. No one moved. No one even breathed. Its light filled the great hall like moonlight pouring through the heavens. The ancient metal shimmered. Then slowly it descended. It settled upon Elara's hair as if it had always belonged there. A powerful wind swept through the room. Every torch burst into silver flame. The walls trembled. Outside the palace, thousands of wolves suddenly began to howl. The sound shook the entire capital. The old moonborn king fell to one knee. Then every moonborn warrior followed, one after another. Their voices rose together. The queen has returned. Silence followed, deep and heavy. Even the rebels looked afraid. Cedric took a step backward. No. His face had gone pale. This cannot happen. But it already had. Elara stood in the center of the hall wearing the ancient crown. The silver light reflected in her eyes. She looked calm, powerful, ancient, as though the crown had awakened something sleeping inside her. Memories, feelings, voices. For a moment she saw another palace. Another time. A woman with silver hair smiling at her. A tall man lifting her into his arms. Her parents. Tears filled her eyes. Then the vision vanished. The crown had accepted her. She was no longer the lost healer from Ashwood. She was the daughter of kings. The rightful queen of the Moonborn. The rightful queen of all wolves. Cedric suddenly shouted, "Kill them!" The rebel soldiers rushed forward. Chaos exploded through the hall. Steel flashed. People screamed. Cale picked up his sword and stepped in front of Elara. His golden eyes burned. No one touches her. The first soldier attacked. Cale struck him down. Another came. Then another. The Alpha King moved like a storm. Beside him General Darius fought with fierce joy. The Moonborn warriors joined the battle. The hall became a sea of flashing blades. Mira clung to her mother. Rowan stepped forward. The little boy looked at the fighting men. Then he shouted, "Stop!" Nothing happened. Then a howl echoed outside. A second later the palace doors burst open. Dozens of wolves ran inside. Massive gray wolves. Black wolves. White wolves. They crossed the hall and stood beside Rowan. Every person froze. The little boy pointed at the rebels. "Protect my family." The wolves charged. Rebel soldiers dropped their weapons in terror. Cedric stared at Rowan. The man looked as if he had seen a ghost. The child commands them. Fear entered his eyes for the first time. At the same moment Mira ran toward a wounded soldier. The man had fallen near the stairs. Blood covered his chest. The little girl touched his hand. Silver light flowed from her fingers. The wound closed. The soldier stared at her in shock. Whispers spread through the hall. The prince commanded beasts. The princess carried healing light. Ancient blood had returned. Cedric backed away. Everything was slipping from his hands. Then his eyes found Elara. Hatred twisted his face. "If I cannot have the throne, then neither will you." He drew a hidden dagger. Then he ran. Straight toward her. Cale saw him. "Elara!" But he was too far away. Cedric raised the dagger. The hall seemed to slow. Mira screamed. Rowan shouted. Then silver light exploded. It burst from Elara like a wave. The dagger shattered before reaching her. Cedric was thrown across the hall. He crashed into a pillar and fell to the floor. Silence. Elara looked at her hands. Power glowed around them. The crown shone brightly. She understood now. Her gift was not only healing. It was protection. Life itself answered her call. Cedric tried to stand. Cale reached him first. The Alpha King placed his sword at the traitor's throat. "It is over." Cedric laughed weakly. "No, it is." The man looked at Elara. Then he smiled. A cruel smile. "I killed your parents." Her eyes darkened. "I know. They begged for your life." Pain crossed her face. "And I gave them none." The hall became very quiet. Cedric wanted to hurt her one final time. Instead he had given her something else. The truth. She stepped forward. Her voice remained calm. "You stole my childhood." The man said nothing. "You took my family." Still silence. "But you failed." She looked at Rowan and Mira. "I have a family again." Tears filled her eyes. "And you will never touch them." Cedric's face slowly fell. For the first time he looked defeated. Cale lowered his sword. "Take him." The guards dragged the traitor away. Lyra stood alone in the center of the hall. She looked broken. All her plans had turned to dust. She looked at Cale. "I loved you." The king's expression remained cold. "You loved what you wanted." Tears rolled down her face. "I only wanted to be queen." She looked at Elara. "And she took everything." Elara shook her head. "No." Her voice was gentle. "You destroyed yourself." Lyra closed her eyes. She had no answer. The guards led her away. At last the hall became quiet. The battle was over. The kingdom had survived. Cale slowly turned toward Elara. She stood beneath the silver light. The crown rested upon her head. She looked beautiful, untouchable. He dropped to one knee. Gasps filled the room. An Alpha King had not knelt before anyone in 300 years. Yet here he was, head lowered, proud king no longer, only a man. "I was wrong." Silence. "I failed you." His voice trembled. "I failed our children." He lifted his eyes. Regret lived inside them. "I cannot change the past." A tear slipped down his cheek. "But if there is even the smallest place for me in your future, then I will spend the rest of my life earning it." The hall waited. Even the children stayed quiet. Elara looked at him for a long time. She remembered the wolf in her cottage. The man who had broken her heart. The father of her children. The king who had finally learned humility. Then Rowan tugged on her hand. "Mother." She looked down. The little boy smiled. "I think he is sorry." Few people laughed softly. Mira nodded. "And he looks lonely." Those words touched something deep inside her. Once she had been lonely too. Very slowly she walked toward Cale. She stopped before him. Then she offered her hand. The king looked at it in disbelief. Tears filled his eyes. He took her hand carefully, as though it were the most precious thing in the world. Elara did not promise love. She did not promise forgiveness. But she did give him something. Chance. And sometimes a chance can change everything. Outside the palace the wolves howled again. This time it sounded like celebration. The queen had returned. The lost family had been found. And a new story had just begun.